Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Univest Public Media Center. We are home to PBS 39, WLVR 91.3, and LehighValleyNews.com. I'm Tim Fallon. I am the CEO of Lehigh Valley Public Media, and I have the very good fortune and honor to be a commissioner for the Early Learning Investment Commission, as my good friend Don Bernhard is as well. The Early Learning Investment Commission is an organization that the governor has set up, I don't know, however many years ago, to promote the value of high-quality pre-K education. I've been honored to be a commissioner since 2015. Two pillars of the Lehigh Valley community introduced me to this very important work. Ed Donnelly, who is the former CEO of Air Products, and Pat Brown, state senator and now the revenue secretary for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. These two gentlemen saw the clear value to our community writ large and the business community very specifically of ensuring high quality pre-K education for all. I thank you all for coming out this morning to hear about the findings of the new report, The High Cost of Working in Early Childhood Education, which is just being released this week. We'll also be talking a bit as to the specifics as it relates to the Lehigh Valley. I will not bury the lead. The picture is not rosy, and we must do something about this, and expeditiously. Today we are joined by experts in this field to share what is in this report, and they work very directly in this field. To get us going and really to run this panel discussion, let me introduce Mai Miksic, the Early Childhood Education Policy Director for Children First. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Mai Miksic, the Early Childhood Education Policy Director for Children First. We are an advocacy organization that fights for kids in Southeast Pennsylvania and statewide. We work on issues like good schools, sound health care, and juvenile justice and child welfare systems that heal children, as well as high quality early child education. So before we begin, I just want to say thank you for hosting us here today, and also want to acknowledge our partners, PNAC, who helped us put this together, as well as the Early Learning Investment Commission. And then also I want to acknowledge the lawmakers in the room and their staff who took time out of their day to come here to talk about this very important issue. Children First and PNAC are two members of two statewide campaigns that push for investments in early child education. Pre-K for PA pushes for investments in high quality pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old in the state. And then Start Strong pushes for high quality childcare so that every child in this Commonwealth has access to affordable childcare. Today we are releasing the report entitled The High Cost of Working in Early Child Education. I'm going to give you some top line findings from the report, and then you're going to hear directly from a provider, a teacher, and a parent about the impact of these low wages on their everyday lives. So let's get started. So I'm going to start today on a positive note. There's never been more support for early child education than before. A Susquehanna poll that was done just this past month found that 98% of Pennsylvania voters think that early child education is important. 78% of them think that we need to put more state investments into pre-K and childcare, and relevant to today's topic, 81% of voters said that they believe state funding should be used to increase the wages of childcare workers. But despite this level of support, the childcare sector is in crisis right now and has been since the pandemic. We've been doing surveys of the field periodically since the pandemic has started. And last spring, we surveyed about 1,000 childcare programs across the state and found that there were 32,000 children sitting on wait lists because of the staffing shortage. Here you see the results of our statewide findings of the most recent survey that was done this past month. And it found 84% of programs that were surveyed were facing staffing shortages, and that led to almost 4,000 open positions across the Commonwealth. Almost 40,000 children are sitting on wait lists, so that number has gone up since last spring. And an additional 30,000 children could be served if these programs were fully staffed. The Lehigh Valley has not been spared from this childcare crisis. So in Lehigh County, 80% of programs are facing staffing shortages with 142 open positions and 838 children sitting on wait lists. In Northampton County, 96 of programs were facing a staffing shortage with 118 open positions and 667 children sitting on wait lists. So this really speaks to the fact that there are children whose parents cannot go to work because they are unable to access high-quality early childhood education. So what we wanted to do was really dive deep into the wages of the sector, and we conducted the most comprehensive early childhood education wage study that's ever been done. We did this by matching data from the Department of Labor and Industry with data from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning. We got records for about 30,000 early childhood education teachers in the state. And then in addition to that, we did a qualitative survey of 3,429 early child educators. So we got a wealth of data, and it painted a very bleak picture. So on average, across the Commonwealth, early childhood teachers are making $12.43. That is a low wage. We were not particularly surprised, but it was still kind of devastating to see. In Lehigh County, they earn less than that. Teachers are making $11.88. In Northampton, teachers are making $11.84. I'm going to show you a map in a little bit about what this means for being able to cover the cost of living, but suffice it to say, this doesn't cover the cost of living here in the Lehigh Valley. So that $11.88 only covers 70% of the cost of living, and $11.84 also 70% of the cost of living. This table shows and puts into context what these wages mean in comparison to other sectors. So you can see here that ECE teachers are making relatively the same amount as other service industry professionals. So that includes retail, housekeeping, hairstylists, home health aides, and landscapers. So they're making on par with what those industries are offering. However, they're still making less than those sectors. And kindergarten teachers, which are, in terms of qualifications and duties, are more on par with ECE teachers, are making more than twice that. So here again, I was talking about the cost of living. So when we talk about cost of living, I'm not talking about frivolous spending. I'm talking about just the basic needs: housing, transportation, healthcare. We're not even including things like broadband internet access. So when we talk about cost of living, this is just the bare bones of what you need to survive. And there's no county where the earnings of childcare teachers are actually meeting those costs of living. So when you factor in other things that you really need, like surprise expenses or broadband internet, the picture is even more bleak. There's only one county, Union County, where they get close to the cost of living, and they're at 96%, but you can see here in the Lehigh Valley, it's about 70%, as I previously mentioned. Interestingly, there's no regular pattern to this, so you would expect perhaps in the Southeast and Southwest, where cost of living is higher, that there would be higher wages, and that's just not the case, because you can see down in Delaware County, where I'm from, they're in the same category as the Lehigh Valley. So early child educators can't get ahead with those wages. On the left, it's a little small, you might have a hard time seeing it, but the left talks about a rainy day fund or savings to cover expenses for 3 months. So early childhood educators are less likely to have a rainy day fund compared to the general public. So the light green is the general public, so about 55% of the general public has a rainy day fund, which is already kind of bleak. But then you compare that to early child educators, only 47% of them have a rainy day fund. Without a rainy day fund, you can't cover surprise expenses. So we also asked them whether a $400 surprise expense would affect their ability to pay their other bills. And it is, again, very bleak. So you can see here that in the general public, about 68% said that they would still be able to cover those expenses, and then only 40% said that 40% of early child educators said that they would be able to cover those expenses. These low wages qualify a lot of early child educators for public benefits. So we found that 65% of respondents said that they applied for some type of public benefit in the past 2 years. So a sampling of that is that 21% said that they were able to access SNAP or food stamps, and 21% said that they at some point enrolled in Medicaid. And ironically, 14% said that they utilized childcare subsidies, and that's not really surprising. I've heard stories of teachers saying that they stayed in the sector because their kids would qualify for lower tuition rates. And so that just goes to show these low wages are affecting every part of their life. There we go. So we are concerned not only about parents' ability to go to work, but also the quality of care and education that children are getting. So I think the most alarming finding that we found in the report was that 50% of educators said that they are not going to be or unsure if they're going to be in their jobs in the next 5 years. And of those who said that they aren't sure or very likely or unlikely to be in their jobs in 5 years, 20% had a graduate degree and 39% had a bachelor's degree. So these are individuals who are credentialed, who know a lot about child development, socio-emotional learning, brain development. They're the ones that are planning to leave. And it doesn't make sense for them to stay, right? When you think about the fact that they've put a lot of money into their education and their low wages are not helping them to cover the costs of things like student loans. 53% said that they identified higher salaries as the most important factor to them staying in their jobs. Other things included retirement benefits, healthcare benefits. So a lot of, in our experts here will talk about it, like a lot of early child educators don't have access to that kind of comprehensive benefits package. So with that said, I'm gonna hand the reins over to our experts who are gonna talk about their lived experiences. We're gonna start with Betty Druckenmiller, who is a director at the Volunteers of America Children's Center.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming. I've been at the Children's Center since 1978, and I've been director for about 10 years. So I have seen many of these trends worsen over the time that I've been in the profession. We are lucky at the Children's Center in that we offer a full benefits package, including a retirement plan, paid time off. Not very many centers do. And because of that, we've had far less turnover of staff in the time that we have. Currently, I have one empty classroom, and sadly, I have another one that is currently threatened because there are no job applicants for early childhood positions in the Lehigh Valley at this time. The last applicant that I had for a position had a 2-year high school business degree, no experience. So we're looking at 2 years of training and experience before that person can be left alone with a group of children. There's certain pre-service requirements that have to be met. Of course, clearances, shaken baby syndrome, and I understand all of the reasons why those are important, and I'm sure you do too. But to hire someone who cannot be alone with a group of children for 2 years doesn't, in most cases, do programs a whole lot of good. It's a process. I met with a professional person from another program last week who was amazed that our teachers needed college degrees, had no idea that our profession requires, and in our case, as a Star 4 program, requires that our teachers be degreed or at the very least have a child development associate credential. And she was an educated professional in another field who did not know that. So that's part of the public battle. In early learning programs, people are your program. And if you lose 50% of your teachers in a given year, if the good ones who have a commitment to children and a degree stay with you a couple of years, that's good. They'll move on because as a child care provider, we are in competition with the public schools. We are in competition with pre-K counts classrooms and with Head Start, and all of them pay better than the average child care program. Our dedicated staff went from 2007 until 2022 without a salary increase. Think of how different things were in '07 compared to last year. We're lucky it was a substantial one. We managed to figure out how to do it after a very long time. The increase in childcare rates certainly helped. And as you read through some of the information, and there's policy documents, and we can refer you to some of them as well. When childcare subsidy rates are set in Pennsylvania, nobody asks center directors what it costs to provide care. The survey is based on the average cost for private pay customers in any given region. So in downtown Allentown, if we charge the $288 a week that subsidy will now pay with Star 4 for a toddler, people would just hang up the phone and go someplace else. One of my favorite Craigslist ads of all time was for a home-based program near Jefferson School in Allentown. Cheap child care, lowest rates. That was the ad. Now, is that safe? Is it good? No, there's no way that you can do $50 a week child care safely. And that was a few years ago. Maybe she charges $75 now. But you get what you pay for in the child care world, and what parents want is safety. They want early learning. They want to see progress toward being ready for school. An important component of our program at the Children's Center is that we pretty much accept all comers. We have children with support workers full-time who are diagnosed with autism through the Kids Peace program. We have children with developmental delays. We have many, many children, and increasing every day, with social and emotional development issues that we provide support for. Child care staff for many years has borne the burden of these low wages. Child care has been affordable only because women, primarily women, were willing to work for not much money, and everybody would say, well, you love your job. It's getting harder and harder. And the phone does not ring when we post jobs. And as I said, we have currently 5 vacancies. That's a lot, and I know that we're not going to fill them, which is why I'm concerned about one of our toddler classroom. So by basing subsidy rates on what is charged, you don't get a realistic picture of what it costs to heat the building, to pay teachers a living wage, to buy the food that we provide children, as we're part of the Child and Adult Care Food Program. You don't get to see those costs. You have to make do with what you get. And even with sources of scholarship support like educational improvement tax credits, foundation grants, United Way, the Greater Lehigh Valley, which has been a strong partner of ours for many years, it's touch and go. And every program is facing that, whether you're a small owner-operated program or a larger center program. So turnover is threatening. Costs of authorized curriculum are going up because now if you're a STARS program, you need an approved curriculum, and that investment may cost from $3,000 to $5,000 per classroom. That's a lot of money. We got a grant in order to be able to do that a couple of years ago to update our curriculum. But every morning, and there were calls for participants in this panel this morning, couldn't make it at the last minute. Every morning at 6 o'clock when my phone comes off, do not disturb, I hold my breath, because if I've got 2 people out, I've got staffing issues that cannot be covered. So I hold my breath. Scheduled vacations is one thing, emergency doctor appointments are another. I have a great team. I rely on my staff for all kinds of things. We've been able to add pre-K counts this year, and hopefully, going forward, we'll have that as a source of support for everybody. But the concept of a for-profit childcare program just makes me giggle every time I hear it, because we're a not-for-profit, as are some of the larger providers in the Lehigh Valley. Nobody makes big money in this field. You're lucky if you can keep your people, if you can keep your program and keep your doors open. And as you know, as some of you who are parents know, many centers have cut back hours because of lack of staff. We are currently open 2 hours a day less than we were before the pandemic. I can't staff it. It's just not possible. So We're looking for people with degrees. We're looking for people to go into education. State colleges are not turning them out. Community colleges are not turning them out. Education is not seen as a valued occupation at any level, whether it's high school, middle school, elementary school, early childhood. It's not a valued career choice at this time. And so this is not a problem that's going to fix itself overnight. This is going to be a decade-long struggle. When you think about it, to get people through a 2-year program even, or a 4-year program, staffing is not going to be available. And at this point, the whole early childhood and childcare system is at a breaking point. We are very close to a failure and a breakdown of the system, which is going to leave families without care, children without learning and diagnosis of problems that would benefit them, people working in the childcare world 40 to 60 hours a week to serve the parents that they're committed to. And this is going to be economic bad news for everyone, the families, the communities, and bad educational news for the kids that we all care about, and that's why I know you're here today. So that's my perspective.
Thank you, Betty. I've lived the experience as well. I have an 18-month-old child. He started at a center back in June and has had 3 different lead teachers. Hasn't even been a full year yet.
No.
And so we're going to hear from a lead teacher now. Angie Edwards is a lead teacher at Resurrected Life Children's Academy. She's also the assistant director there. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then you tell me when you want me to move to the next question. So what challenges have you faced in trying to make ends meet? What challenges have your staff faced living at your current wage?
Good morning. I'm Angelina. So I have been with Resurrected Life Children's Academy for 4 years. Prior to this, I was a hygienist. I worked as a hygienist for 5 years, and I just didn't feel fulfilled. So I picked up and I moved into the early childhood education world, which may sound crazy as we're sitting here on this panel discussion talking about wages, right? But that's where my heart is. So when we're in this field right now, if your heart's not in it, you're not finding a worker, as you were saying. We face many challenges. A lot of them are going to be repeated. Finding workers is on top of the list, especially when you're looking for people who are educated, understand classrooms, understand your mission and vision, and understand that we're there for the child. So when you're paying $12.50, you're not going to get that, right? Especially when you can go to Target and make $20 right now. And not just to stop it there, you're at Target checking people out. Good morning, how are you? Okay, your total's $15.95, I'll see you later. When you're in a classroom with 10 to 20 kids, depending on your ratios, you're dealing with a lot more, okay? You're walking into that classroom, you may have 10 kids that maybe are having a bad day, and you have to be that support system for that child. You have to be able to give them tools, give them strategies, and also teach them, right? Because that's what we're there for. Many individuals on the outside don't see the inside of the classroom, right? So a lot of parents are dropping them off to school, and that's what they're getting. But while we're there, we're facing challenges. We're in the classrooms with them. We're helping them learn. They're learning about their social and emotional well-being, and they're growing while they're with us, right? So now finding those correct people to be in those classrooms becomes a challenge when you have the outside market offering a way bigger salary. How can we compete with that? So that's one of the biggest challenges we have at this moment with, it would be staffing would be the top challenge.
Thank you. Have you, or if you look at the span of your career in early child education, have you or any of your staff ever needed to enroll in public benefits to make ends meet?
So, yes. So long story short, making $12.50, if you multiply that by 40 hours a week, I can't give you math, my math isn't the best, but you're not making much. So some of our teachers' checks may look like $800 every 2 weeks. That's what they're looking at. Some of my teachers pay $1,100 in rent.
Yeah.
So we're paying $1,100 in the Lehigh Valley, and their check is $800. I have teachers coming up to me saying, Angie, I have to split my rent into 2 bills because if not, I can't afford it. So now I have this great teacher in a classroom. She's amazing. She's a single mom, and she's struggling to make ends meet. And she stays there because that's where her heart is. Her passion is there. But she could easily pick up and say, hey, I'm going to go to Amazon and make $25 an hour. So they choose to stay with us, but the struggle is real. They're struggling every day to make ends meet. At our center, we try very, very hard to give them stepping stones. We are pre-K counts certified, so we are privileged in that way. So we, as soon as our teacher starts with us, after the 90 days, we try to get them enrolled in school. We try to use the PDO grants that are out there, which we really, really appreciate. If nobody knows, the PDO grants are funding that allows teachers in the ECE to go back to school, to certain colleges. You could get your CDA, your associate's, or your bachelor's degree. So we do push teachers. We give them the motivation to continue to study because that's the only way to continue to increase your wages. So that's our stepping stone for them. The only issue with that is that you can help somebody get all the way to their bachelor's and then be like, hey, I've had enough. I found a better position. So we are hopeful, but that is one of the ways that we try to assist our staff.
So have you or any of your staff ever needed a second job? It sounds like that is kind of expected if they're only making $800 per paycheck and their rent is $1,100.
So as of right, in the past, I've had staff that she used to work 2 jobs. She was a single mom, and she would literally work a night shift and then wake up and work with us during the day. It didn't last long because, you can't be a single mom, work 2 jobs, take care of your kids, and be actually functional, right? Something eventually drops. So whether that be your kids, your job, your second job, your mental health, your well-being, a ball drops somewhere. So now we're at the point where we need to figure out what's our solution. Our children's brain grows at a rapid pace before they're 5 years old. So now we have our Black and brown kids, and all of our kids are learning, but they're in these settings with parents who are making low-income wages, who now we have daycare providers who are accepting low payments. So now it's like a trickle effect, right? So we can't pay the teacher, but we expect them to be able to educate our kids, but then we expect them not to pay them. So we're almost like, what are they worth? That's how I feel. Like, what is your child's education worth to you? Because if I had an amazing job and I was a doctor, I'm not going to send my child to $150 a week school. Why? Because the honest truth is, you are like, you know what, they're not going to educate my child the way I want my child to be educated. No, you're going to look for that private that private school, or you're going to really look deep into those centers that have that care, so your child gets the best, right? But now you're looking at, okay, Resurrected Life Children's Academy is great, or your child care is great, right? Now what does our waiting list look like? Now we have 20, 30, 40 kids on our waiting list because they're like, you know what, they take subsidized care and I know they care about my baby when they're there. But now I have to wait to get my baby in there. So it's like you're constantly juggling something, but I feel like, yeah. It's just, I could go on forever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's so true. It's okay. It's okay. Like I said, I have faced it. I waited months for my child to get into a Star 4 center.
Yes.
So next I want to introduce Veranda Johnson. She's a parent. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your kids before I jump into some questions.
Okay. My name is Veranda Johnson. I have 5 children.
How old are they?
They're 13, 10, 7, 6, and 9 months.
9 months. Great. And are you working? Does childcare help you get to work? Tell us about that.
Yes, I am working. I'm a teacher as well. But my 4 children are in school, but the 9-month-old, he is the one that needs to be in childcare, and childcare is the reason I am able to work with him being a baby.
Sure. So tell me about what high quality childcare means to you and to your baby.
High quality child. education means a lot to me just because of the fact that he's a baby. So he doesn't talk, and him going into childcare, I have to go in there feeling good, because if I don't, then he won't be there. Like, I expect him, when I go there, he's very advanced. So when I go there, he's happy to see his teachers. So I know that he's getting the care he needs. Now, if he went in there, he screamed all the time, and he's not that type of child, I would feel off ease if that's how it went.
Yeah. So talk to me about continuity of care. So you're a teacher, you know that phrase, what that means. It means, you know, a regular teacher taking care of a kid for a long period of time.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It means a lot, but like I'm a teacher, so I work in childcare, and I know, like they said, it's hard to keep a teacher because he's 8 months and he's had 3 teachers already.
Yeah.
So I know they were all lovely, but I know how hard it is to keep a teacher.
And do you feel like you would like, I mean, you're working in the field, but would you like to see your teachers get paid a fair wage? And what does that mean to you?
To me, I would love to get paid more, and I would love for the teachers to get paid more. Like she was just saying, she hit the nail on the head when she said, you expect these children to be taken care of a certain way, but you're not paying them what they're worth. And we're with children from 6 o'clock till our center closes at 5:30. So we're with your children sometimes more than you. You go home, they're up for like 3 hours and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So for them to be paid what they're worth would be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I want to close out by saying that, you know, you heard today from some spectacular experts who have lived experiences about this problem. You heard about the data and what we found in our report. The only way forward here is for additional public investment. We need to be investing in our early learning systems. We need to be investing in our early educators. And that's the way that we have to move forward. So I'm going to hand it off to Tim to close us out. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take the priority of having the microphone and just share a few final thoughts on this. Back in literally the last millennium, I went to business school and spent a lot of time on root cause analysis. And I've applied that through many things through my business career. It is very clear to all of us that many of society's current ills will be solved through a better educated workforce and community members writ large. The analysis has been done by Nobel Prize winning economists that investment in early childhood education is that root cause that will make a significant difference in those social ills. What we're talking about today is the root cause challenge of why the early childhood education system is not succeeding at the level that we want it to. And it is very clear. We are not appropriately recognizing and compensating those most important leaders, those teachers who are right there. I am going to throw out the gavel or gamut or whatever, I'm missing the analogy there. This is not a time to be reflective. This is a time for action. I noted State Senator Pat Brown earlier in my introduction, and he was relentless in increasing the state's support for early childhood education. We cannot let that slow down, and instead we need to increase that at a much higher rate. I think we've all learned why that is the case, as if we didn't know it previously. I want to thank all of these wonderful people for coming out this morning and sharing their stories, their angst, their challenges so eloquently. And I want to thank all of you for making the time this morning to come and hear this work. So thank you all, and I'm not sure if you have time for questions or not.
Yeah, we have time for questions if anybody in the audience has comments or questions today.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Great job.
Did great.
Well done.